What's up, everybody? It's House Divided, Orange Bloods Live. I'm Jeff Ketchum. That's Chad Hastings. Like, comment, subscribe to the page, scan that QR code, and get your ass on Orange Bloods when you're not watching this video. Multitask. Do both at the same time. Trust me. It's a good experience. Jump into the chat. Chat it up with the Specs chat. We do love it when you send super chats, all that stuff. That's right, William. You're on lunch. Let's get it started. Guys, topics are plentiful today. Has Texas A&M taken Texas's cornbread in recruiting? They did yesterday. Is it happening on a more widespread basis? Should Longhorns be concerned about the Aggies? The Longhorns have the number one linebacker in the country visiting them this weekend. That just happened. And then there's just recruiting stuff after recruiting stuff after recruiting stuff. Mr. Hastings, we start with House Divided. Yesterday, the Aggies took a little bit of Texas's cornbread, and now everybody is they're trying to figure out what to make of the moment. Should they overreact? How big of a deal is it? Should Texas fans be concerned? Should A&M fans be throwing a party? Like, there is always the aftermath of when a big recruitment meets its resolution. What does it mean for the winners? What does it mean for the losers? And in a world where a commitment takes place in June and they don't sign until December, and we live in an NIL world, what does it all actually mean? That's what we're talking about today.
Yeah, so KJ Edwards, the running back from Carthage, had been set for an official visit to Texas on June 20th for months now. It's been a long time. It's been set, and he hits the official visit last weekend at A&M, and the reports coming out of it were positive that things went well, but the assumption was that he was still going to make the visit to Texas. So that's sort of where our reaction is going to start here, because obviously that would be, it's big time news. For me, the extra question would be, do we know for sure he's not taking the visit to Austin? That's huge. Is he still coming to Austin on the 20th, or were the Aggies able to get him to commit and commit and cancel the visit?
I think that still, I'm not expecting him to be in town this weekend.
Okay.
But I don't think this recruitment is over either. And that's kind of where I am on this. I think there's a lot of ways to look at this. First of all, it's a big get for the Aggies. Like, I think there are 3 running back prospects in the state of Texas this year that I think are elite, that I have ranked as super blue chip prospects.
Okay.
KJ Edwards is one of them, and A&M got theirs. The other 2 guys, one's committed to Notre Dame and the other one's committed to Oregon. So in a year when there are 3 elite level running backs in the state of Texas, as things stand right now, Texas has none of the 3. They've had their eggs in the KJ Edwards basket for a long time. If you go back to the beginning of the year, Texas was the leader for KJ Edwards and Javion Osborne. And then the change at the running back position coach occurs. Phone calls aren't made. Osborne basically it's intimated to him that he's not as high on the totem pole as KJ Edwards. He feels that, and he's like, I'm out. I'm no longer really considering Texas. Ends up committed to Notre Dame. The Longhorns have been recruiting a bunch of national backs, but they're not the favorites with any of those. Now, that doesn't mean – I guess my expectation is that when signing day rolls around, Texas will probably have an elite running back committed to it. If they don't, I don't think it's a big deal. But I think that what Texas has realized is that it doesn't matter where you go get the talent from. And we saw that with Justice Terry a year ago. They had a major need at defensive tackle. And in the end, they got their 5-star guy, but it wasn't from a guy that in November, many of us would have guessed, oh, he's the one. We would have thought it'll be somebody else that has visited. It'll be somebody else that they were closer on. I think recruiting in 2026 is so much more about assessing where things stand late and what you still need and how much NIL money you have available to potentially go out and do something. We saw a lot of shakeup at the end of the recruiting year last year where guys were flipping left and right. Does that mean KJ Edwards is going to flip? It does not. I mean, just like with DeCorian Moore a year ago when he committed to Oregon in the summer, and Michael Fasusi when he committed to Oklahoma, sometimes these things stick. And you have a lot of work to do to try to overcome commitment sometimes. Then there are other times, when Reuben Owens committed to Louisville, and it was like, oh, that kid's not going to go to Louisville. Like sometimes you know and sometimes you don't know. I don't know about the KJ Edwards thing. He really seems to be in on A&M. I think one of the tentacles of that story is I think it's a shitty year inside the state of Texas for talent, Chad.
Not just that position, all positions?
No, it's great at running back.
Okay.
It's a bad year inside the state of Texas.
Okay. Overall,
normally there are 13 to 15 guys in the state of Texas that I will think are super blue chips in any given year. And then depending on the various networks, you'll have one service will have 3 more guys, and then you'll end up with another service that has another 2 or 3 guys. You'll end up with like 20 dudes that is viewed as a super chip by somebody. Not this year. This year, there are 9 guys in the state of Texas that are viewed as super blue chips by multiple services. And then I think there are like 4 others. It is just not the best year ever. And of the 9 guys that I have rated as super blue chips, 3 of them are running backs, which is unusual. In fact, the only time I can really remember that happening, 2006. That was the Emmanuel Moody, Vondrell McGee, and oh God, A&M signed somebody, and I can't remember who it was. But there were 3 running backs in the top 10 that year. And in the end, none of them actually lived up to the hype. I got to look it up now. It's bothering me, Chad. I can't say it reminds me of 2006, and then I can't remember. That's the cool thing about having all of your stuff archived. Let me see if I can figure it out. Who was the third? Was it Lennon Creer? Hold on. It's loading. The top-rated running. Michael Goodson!
Michael
Goodson. You?
Wow.
So in 2006, Vondrell McGee was 6th, Michael Gooden was 7th, and Emmanuel Moody was 11th. Okay? So that's how they ranked for me in recruiting that year. But I think even Rivals that year had all 3 of those guys technically state top 10 players. So it does happen. Now, it's funny when I tell you that if I tell you that there are 3 4-stars, what are the math? And the math on 1 out of 3 hitting is not unfair. If those guys are all 5-stars, you'd think that 2 of the 3 would make it. You get below that and you get into the 1 out of 3 range will make it. So one of the things that everybody needs to do when they think about this is none of the guys that we're talking about are viewed as 5-stars. Really. Javian Osborne, not a 5-star. KJ Edwards, not a 5-star. Tredarian Ball, not a 5-star. But they're all viewed as super blue chip, national top 50 recruits. The reality is you might hit on 2 of those, but in all likelihood, 1 of those 3 is going to make it big. Like Michael Goodson. Michael Goodson ended up being an NFL running back. Now, weirdly enough, when we talk about who made it from that 2006 class, Goodson makes it. And he had a good pro career, but it wasn't like he was a star in college and a star in the NFL. One of the reasons why we do the show, Chad, that we do is I try to set the expectations for what people should think about guys way in advance, because we're told to believe everybody's great. Everybody's going to make the NFL. He's a 5-star. I don't even talk about 5-stars without mentioning, they miss like 25 to 30% of the time. That there is no guarantee, but the guarantees that come with the super blue chips are the best you're going to get. It's real cash in hand instead of a Groupon coupon. So, and then I think what's left, Chad, for Texas is that in a year where there are only 9 prospects that I think are worth getting really excited about. Well, Osborne's committed to Notre Dame. Osborne's committed to Notre Dame. Edwards is committed to A&M, and Ball is committed to Oregon. My number 10 guy in the state is Jamion Winfield. He's defensive tackle. He's committed to USC. Keyshawn Henderson I have rated as a 5-star. The number 3 player in the state. He's been ranked 3rd for the last 7 months. He's committed to Houston. Have you been keeping up with the math, Chad? Of the top 10 prospects in the state, 5 of them are committed right now. How many of them are committed to Texas?
That's none.
Ding, 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 ding. You did it.
Yeah, I didn't hear it.
Now, who's uncommitted? Number 1 player in the state, Felix Ojo. Number 2 player in the state, Jalen Lott. Number 4 player in the state with the number 3 uncommitted, Jamarian Carlton. Number 5 player in the state, number 4 uncommitted, John Turntime. The only other uncommitted guy I have at number 7 is an athlete named Davian Gross, who very well could end up in Oklahoma. Texas hasn't offered that kid at all. I don't know how to completely explain why they haven't offered Gross, but they're not. So for Texas, recruiting inside the state of Texas, it comes down to those 4 guys that I just mentioned. You know, in a vacuum, KJ Edwards going to A&M, you can kind of live with. He's a top 10 player in the state. Those are guys you don't want to be losing. But 4 of the top 5 guys in the state are still uncommitted. Texas is probably at least a strong favorite with 3 of the 4. It's hard to handicap Jalen Lott completely, but the smart money would be on them getting Ojo, getting Carlton, getting Turntime. But if anything goes wrong with those 4, because I think if you get the 4 of the top 5 guys in the state, you can say we did what we needed to do. That's the most important thing. But if you lose one of those and you come away with 3, and it's like, well, you got 3 of the top 5. Well, how many of the top 10 did you get? 3. It's like, well, how many of the top 15 did you get? Well, depends on whose list you're looking at. Maybe 3, maybe 4. That's not good enough because we know that Texas trophy hunts in recruiting. And we know that the only recruits that really matter are the super blue chips. That you start getting into the guys before, and you don't want to be insulting, right? But we have to be able to acknowledge only 1 out of 4 of you guys makes it. We can hype you up as much as we want, but everybody who has intellectually listened to anything that I've reported over the last decade knows 75% of those dudes or more don't make it. So, you know, if I told you, Chad, hey, do you have a top 5 outside of your marriage? Like, does Wendy, in theory, allow you to have a top 5? Because I feel like most couples have this discussion. Like, if Christian Bale ever hits on my wife, he's in the top 5. Like, she gets to have sex with him.
Right. I don't know if it's been current. I don't know if it's currently updated at this moment. We've had we're Friends fans. So yes, of course we've had that conversation.
So Aniston's on the list. And if your wife saw Jennifer Aniston walk into a room and, you know, hit on you, she'd be okay with it, right? If Jennifer Aniston came into a room and you started to get your hopes up, like, oh my God, yes, I'm married, but I have a get out of jail clause with Jennifer Aniston, and she's here and she hit on me earlier. If I showed up and said, hey, Chad, I know you feel good about the current situation, but there's at least a 75% chance.
Yeah.
How good would you feel then about your hey, I'm still telling you there's a chance.
Right. I would be like Han Solo. Never tell me the odds. And I would ask you to leave. That's what I would do.
But that's what we do with like a national top 150 kid. There's a 75 to 80% chance that he's going to just be a dismal failure. We don't tell us the odds. We don't like the odds. But those are the odds. And it's one of the reasons why once I get beyond 20, I almost don't even like ranking kids anymore. They're all the same. It's like, oh, that guy that I ranked 98th, he's only about 4 percentage points lower than the guy that I ranked 25th. In the grand scheme of things, if I tell you that you have a 25% chance of making it or a 21% chance of making it, don't those things sound the same?
It's pretty close. Yeah.
Right. It's Russian roulette. If I added another chamber so that there was only a bullet in 1 out of every 7 instead of 1 out of every 6, we'd feel better about it. But the cloud,
Yeah.
the bullet remains. It's that way with recruiting, except the bullets are reversed. There are 5 bullets in the chamber and 1 that's not. And you're every recruit that's not a super blue chip, you're gambling, you're hoping that when the trigger gets pulled, it's a blank. That's the math in recruiting. I'm the only person in the industry that tells people this.
Yep, it's true. All right, we're talking about the KJ Edwards thing today. If you're a Texas fan, how concerned are you? How worried are you? What are your thoughts? We will continue that discussion. Super chats, throw them our way. We will get to those first, right out of the block. Also, we will give some shout outs throughout the day. Let's give a couple quick ones here. Deep Eddy Vodka Tasting Room, a great place for you to check out Thursdays through Sundays. Get on out there, have yourself a good time, be safe about it, but get some of that barbecue, get some of that, the vodka cocktails, maybe have a tasting. It is an awesome experience out at the Deep Eddy Vodka Tasting Room. Also, when you see the show, you see Texas Card House right across the top. Let's give Hijack Poker their love as well. Hijackpoker.com. Anywhere in the state of Texas, you can play online poker just like Mr. Ketchum does, just like Alex Dunlap does, and a lot of our other chatters. Hijackpoker.com. Put that on any device you want and get it going. All right, Catch. There's some good chats coming in on the Edwards thing. We'll get back to that. You mentioned the Tyler Atkinson thing, though. Let me get your reaction to this real quick. We're talking about the number 1 rated linebacker in America, according to Rivals.
I love it.
From Georgia, and now the official visit is set up for this weekend to Texas, correct?
Yeah, he's a little bit like Lamar Brown in that Texas has been trying like crazy for the last 6 months to get this kid on campus. He's visited Texas. But he was in Texas in the spring of, he came to the Georgia game and he was here in the spring. But he hasn't been to Texas since October. So there's an interest. But it's a little bit like Lamar Brown. I would say if you get Tyler Atkinson on campus, you're going to need to follow that up with a second visit if you're going to get it. Right? Okay. So it's one of the things when the Lamar Brown story came out last week, it was being discussed. It was actually reported. This is one of the reasons why don't get too crazy with nobody keeps score on reporters recruiting nuggets except for us. It was reported that he was coming in next weekend. There were people who were reporting he will be in town on the 18th, which would have been today, actually. Hadn't happened. And it'd be funny if he showed up today and I'm talking about this and then he did sneak into town and just tried to lie to everybody. And then it's like, Catch, you called out the person that anyway. Get him on campus, shooters shoot. It's going to be hard beating this kid from Loganville, Georgia. It's going to be hard to beat Georgia. But shoot your shot. They're now going to get him on campus. If they can get it, this will now make the 3rd time that he's been on campus. Whereas you would say, God, he hasn't been on campus since October. Touche. But on Saturday, you'll say, well, this is the 3rd time he's been on campus since April of 2024.
Right. But you'll still make the argument that it needs to be this official visit and then maybe another one, like a visit in the season or something like that?
Yep.
Okay.
There has to be Texas won't get Lamar Brown without at least one more return visit. And I'm telling you, before Tyler Atkinson even shows up for his official visit, it would be different because most of the guys they brought in from out of state have already visited Texas once this year. It's what made Lamar Brown so unusual because, like Atkinson, he was visiting on an official visit after not taking a junior day or coming during the spring or something like that. So for me, this is huge news. I have a man crush on Tyler Atkinson. I think he's phenomenal. It's unlikely that Texas gets Tyler Atkinson. Kind of Russian roulette odds at this point, but you're the 1 instead of the 5.
Mm-hmm.
But like, you can't get this kid until you do this thing. So really big news. These are the guys that you worry about. And I would say this, like, the Aggies got a kid yesterday in KJ Edwards. That's a kid you worry about. Now, you go below much long, you go down the list, you start getting to, well, here, I'll do the exercise for you. I'm going to go look at my Lone Star Recruiting Top 100 list, Chad. I put out and updated yesterday. Thank you to the engineers. Thank you to Luke DeRossi from Rivals.com. We had an admin issue, Chad, and I thought it was going to keep me from updating the rankings ever again because Rivals, as we currently know it, is done in 12 days. So I reached out to him and I was like, I'm telling you that this little hiccup, this bug exists, but I realize that all of you might be on senior skip day for weeks and that it might not ever get fixed because come July 1st, it wouldn't need to be fixed anymore, right?
Right.
Son of a bitch, you fixed it. And I was able to update my ranking. So I can literally look at them now. There's some updated like A&M's got a commitment from KJ Edwards, who I have ranked 8th in the state. That matters. Their next commitment on the list is Jonathan Hatton Jr., ironically enough, a running back from Cibolo Steel. He's ranked 27th in the state. He doesn't matter. But you know what? I have a player ranked ahead of him named Chris Stewart, who's committed to Texas as a wide receiver. And if I was talking to an A&M fan, I would say he doesn't matter. Yeah, he's a good player. Yes, he's a top 25 player in the state, but the statistical odds of the 25th or 26th best player in the state becoming an NFL drafted player are basically identical to the top 100. Yeah. So I can scroll all the way down to the last guy on my list, who's a kid named Camden Capehart, who's a wide receiver from Winsboro, who's committed to Mississippi State. That guy statistically is as valuable as the two guys that I just mentioned, only off by a mere few percentage points.
Okay, so when Vivek jumps in the chat and says, how bad we feeling, fam, about the KJ Edwards situation, just to circle back around, we've obviously talked a lot about it so far, but Texas fan walks up to you in the grocery store and asks how to feel, what's your feeling on it? Like, what do you tell them?
It's a big head-to-head loss, but they're on the ground. It's a big head-to-head loss. It makes you wonder if the running back coaching changes away from Tashard Choice. It's a new guy having problems, trying to assert himself in a new job with guys that he doesn't have maybe the longest relationships with, that the schools that he's competing against will have. Like, you'll ask yourself questions. I think, let me ask you this. If this kid were from the state of Georgia, if KJ Edwards were from the state of Georgia and Texas took him from Georgia, what would you tell Georgia fans that they need to be worried?
Well, yeah.
Why?
If he's a big-time guy from the state of Georgia, I would tell him to worry a little bit about that.
See, I wouldn't. Worry is the wrong word for me.
Okay.
Disappointed, concerned, bothered, sure, because you've lost a player that matters, right?
Yeah.
But the thing that Georgia, Oklahoma, Texas, and even Alabama have to a certain extent is they've recruited so well that they do have talent stacked everywhere on their roster. We can look, last year we could look at the Texas roster. We knew what the most important area of need was: defensive tackle. This year, because they didn't get Michael Fasusi last year, and it didn't make it the biggest need, but he was the biggest target that they missed. What it meant is, from a need standpoint, feels like offensive line's the biggest need that Texas has this year. Specifically, they got to find at least one super badass tackle because they need it. But if you look across the rest of the roster, quarterback, running back, receiver, tight end, defensive tackle now, amazingly enough, edge, linebacker, DBs, it's a pretty loaded roster. There's not a position in the field other than, I would argue, Ojo. Ojo's the one guy that if they lost this year, no spin. I don't want to hear about the rest of the roster. Don't tell me they got Brandon Baker 2 years ago. Ojo's the guy. But if Jalen Lott went to Oregon, I would go, well, they did say Jamie French and Khalil Lockett and Dalen McCutcheon and Michael Terry a year ago, and they can go into the portal, and they got Emmett Mosley. And like, could you survive DeCorian Moore going to Oregon? Yeah, it sucked. And you want him every time. But DeCorian Moore going to Oregon last year, was that a sign that Texas fans needed to be worried? No. These recruits matter a lot. They're the most valuable. The only thing that matters now, because Texas has recruited so well for the last 3 or 4 years, Ojo and 7 to 10 other guys with recruiting super blue chip CV, what are CBMs? What do they call those things? What's your resume? What do they call them? CV. Resumes. Anybody who's got the same resume as a Felix Ojo, those guys matter, and I don't care what positions they come in. All I want to know is that on December 1st, they got 10 dudes like Felix Ojo. If one of them's not at running back, they'll be fine. But what it probably means is the next year, you better get a badass. You can kind of go every other year at every position getting a super blue chip. Texas didn't get one last year. And right now they looked 6 months ago like they were favorites for 2. So I think narrow focus, you can look at the running back room and go, is our running back recruiting good enough right now? Haven't signed a super blue chip since CJ Baxter. We've had a change in coaches. We just had 2. I think you can narrowly have a conversation about the running back position and say, hey, anything need to be tweaked there? And the answer might be no. It might be no. Sample size that, yeah, there are 3 guys this year, but we don't think there's really anything wrong with us. But, if you look at the Texas depth chart, Chad, pop quiz. You ready for this?
Usually no, but go ahead.
How many Texas running backs on the current roster are scheduled to depart following this upcoming season?
Oh, geez, that have to?
They run out of eligibility.
It's none, isn't it?
It's none.
None or, yeah.
In the next 2 years, and so in 25 and 26, they only lose Trey Wisner in the next 2 years. Now,
right, and that's in the next 2, yeah.
They could, somebody next spring will probably transfer because you've got Gibson, Baxter, Christian Clark, James Simon, Ricky Stewart Jr., and anybody in this recruiting class, they're all bunched together.
Mm-hmm.
They've got 5 guys right now who are either sophomores, redshirt freshmen, or true freshmen. So that will break apart. But, last year at defensive tackle, part of the reason why defensive tackle was such a major need, because they lost 5. This year, that on offense, there are only 3 seniors. Matthew Caldwell, who you hope never plays, DJ Campbell, and Cole Hudson. So now they've got juniors, Trey Wisner, DeAndre Moore, Jack Indries, Neto Yamuslo, and Connor Robertson. That's it. On the roster, the Texas roster currently has 8 combined juniors and seniors on offense. Consequently, if I were to count the freshmen and the sophomores, it would be in the 40s.
Yeah, and to that argument, Catch, Jay sent us an interesting chat about Edwards. He says, I think Edwards to A&M is a playing time thing. A&M's 1st through 4th string running backs are all upperclassmen. Texas young competitive room. No one knows if Baxter will be back or Wisner. So
on top of that, A&M may have given him a badass NIL deal.
Well, there's that too. And I was going to ask you, I saw plenty of reaction yesterday and today about that from Texas fans. Some Texas fans just throwing it away as if he's going to A&M, it's got to be all about money.
I just don't have time for that shit.
Okay.
We know we can count 20 players over the last 3 years that have come to Texas because of money. Texas doesn't play in the national semifinals of either of the last 2 years if they don't have a bunch of dudes who chose to come to Texas for money. So I don't have time for that. It's what if you're saying to me, well, he only picked A&M because they paid him more money. Oh, so they had a better sales pitch.
At this point.
Because when I interview for a job, at some point, the big part of the sales speech is, yo, man, I love the building. A lot of nice people work here. I love living where the city where the business is. Could see myself living there. The housing market's awesome. How much are you going to pay me? If the answer is not anything more than you're making elsewhere, that's not a great sales pitch. You know what was a great sales pitch to Mark Bowman? $8 million over 3 years.
Yeah. Well, the other reality Texas fans have got to get a hold of. We've talked about this. All the big dog blue blood program fans have got to get a hold of this thing because money's going to be a part of the discussion. Of the Longhorns' major rivals, which one can compete with them with NIL? Which one can compete with them in revenue and NIL, Catch? Which one?
It's the Aggies.
It's the Aggies.
And look, nobody should be. A&M is, I have worked in the recruiting industry for 30 plus years. It makes me feel so old to say that. But I do think it brings some gravity to my comments. All 30 years, A&M has recruited mostly like an elite program. They get top 10 classes. They're capable as recently as 4 classes ago of having the #1 ranked class in the country. They're not incapable. So that they got KJ Edwards is not a shock. No one should look at A&M and think they're incapable, that they're behind. They're trailing Texas in talent, maybe in the coaching department. It's kind of hard to tell. I don't really know what Elko is completely as a head coach, but I think he's cool. I think he's good. I think he's really good. It takes elite to keep your job, though, in college football. I think Auburn's had really good football coaches. They're trying to compete against Alabama, and the bar has been Alabama, and so they go through head coaches all the time. What we don't know is, but you know what? Auburn signs national blue chip guys all the time. They got a sophomore wide receiver on their team that was a super, super duper blue chip. They didn't have a quarterback throwing in the ball. He signed there. Like, those schools are going to, A, get kids, and B, they've got money. What we even talked about on Monday was, look, the conversation that we need to be able to have that we don't, because we don't know what Texas has from a resource standpoint available for a KJ Edwards, and we don't know what A&M has available. Right. That, in theory, a school's going to have about $17 million that they're going to be able to spend on football and do it through revenue sharing, at which point those deals, while they're reviewed, they're not audited and rejected in ways that the non-revenue sharing deals will be. Yeah. If Texas has 20 super blue chips in their program and A&M has 10, and they're all being paid with the same amount of money, Chad, without knowing the specifics of anything, exact same pool of money, one school has twice the number of players than the other. On paper, just using your brain, who has more money to spend? And let's say they're all getting paid $1 million. Texas has 20. Texas A&M has 10.
Texas.
Who's gone through their 17 million?
Yeah.
Who has 7 million left behind? So one of the things the thing is, that's a real, I don't even know that that's the right way to frame it. I'm just saying it's possible that as these schools are putting together their plans, look, man, if Texas wants to get Lamar Brown or Tyler Atkinson, And it's going to cost $2 million plus per year to get either of those guys. Can't get everybody. You're going to have to make, and I'm not saying that's what happened here. I'm just because I'm giving A&M personally. I'm just giving them credit for a badass head-to-head win.
Yeah. And the other question, of course, is what exactly was it about the discussions and the presentation that not only made him commit midweek, but might make him not come to Austin the next weekend?
Money.
What's that look like?
Money
right?
is a way of causing people to do things.
All right. Then there's an additional layer to that we need to discuss. And I will give you a presentation of it here in just 1 second. Let's encourage everybody to throw in some super chats if you want. If you want to jump in the chat, please feel free. Also, let me tell you about Sinus and Snoring Specialists. It is all about options. I've been telling you about it. They've got a new doctor in the practice along with Dr. Slaughter. So more options in terms of appointment times, morning, afternoon, whatever works best for you. Also, for those of you on the Moda insurance, they now accept that. They're adding stuff there. And they've always been the place with more options than other places for ear, nose, and throat, the sinus stuff, the allergies you've been dealing with, snoring, sleep apnea. We've had those discussions about me in 2017, and then I've been sleeping better since. My wife's got her CPAP machine, and she loves it and sleeps like a baby. There's a lot of options out there, and Sinus and Snoring has all of them. 601-0303, or go to sinussnoringent.com. Feel clear, rested, and healthy with Sinus and Snoring Specialists. Okay. Now,
Chad,
yes.
Can I pull up a chat comment?
Sure.
Because I think this is, there's a message that Texas fans need to hear.
Okay.
And by the way, Chris Bennett, I'll just pull it up. Outsiders tonight?
Outsiders debuting Thursdays at 10 a.m. now, Chris Bennett. We will have an Outsiders this week. We are hoping to get Jason Dick's report on his World Series of Poker experience. He went Matt Damon from Rounders. He tried to sit at the table. We'll find out how it went.
Oh, I can't. I'm in. All right. So then, right on top of that, Christopher Summers had this. Texas is embarrassed. It is embarrassing to lose anyone to OU and A&M, and it's no damn excuse. Christopher, I'm going to give you a lecture now. And I like you, Christopher. I really do. You're one of our best chatters. So please don't think I'm picking on you. But I'm going to tell you the thing that you need to hear and embrace. They don't matter. Losing to A&M and Oak. Go back to the question that I asked Chad. If Georgia lost a player from Georgia to Texas, should Georgia fans be worried? And what did I tell Chad? They could be pissed. They could be disgruntled. There's a lot of words that you would use, but worried wouldn't be with one of those words, because you do otherwise know that Georgia's going to recruit like a mother, right? You know that. Right? And even if they don't get the running back that you wanted, badass receivers and linemen and defensive line, they're going to have a bunch of badasses. Texas right now, look, Christopher, it's okay to admit this. I'll admit it now. Like, even in my single days, I did all right for himself, but I never walked into a bar knowing that the sexiest woman in the bar was definitely going to walk out with me. Or if there are 5 sexy women, at least one of them is walking out with me. No doubt about it. I walk into a room, one of the 5 sexiest women leaves on my arm. When you have that kind of pull, do you know what you don't ever do? And look, I have friends that have been this guy. Do you know what they have never once worried about? What's Ketch doing? Who's Ketch with? Oh my God, Ketch, he's walking out with a prettier girl that they don't care. They got theirs. Texas is going to get theirs. All that matters is at the end of this recruiting class, Texas has between 7 and 10 blue chips, super blue chips. And you know why they're able to do that? Because in the 3 classes before, they've had between 7 and 10 super blue chips. And you stack and you stack and you stack and you get to the end of a 4-year cycle. And do you know who has more super blue chips than you? Nobody. And like Georgia and Ohio State can raise their hands and say, well, we're just like you. We're with you. Those schools don't worry about an Indiana or an Illinois coming in and taking a kid from Ohio. Shit happens. Do you know that sometimes an excuse is just the reason why something happens? A&M gave KJ Edwards $2 million. Oh, I don't want to hear any excuses. Well, no. I mean, but that's what happened. And you got to be okay with the sometimes component that there will be reasons, not excuses, reasons in 2025 and 2026 why kids don't go to your school and they go someplace else. And if you're A&M, you could probably be worried when it happens to you. If you're Oklahoma, you can be worried when a guy like KJ Edwards, who's one of your most important targets, goes someplace else. But when you're Texas, and you know at the end of the night, you're walking out of here with a top 5 recruiting class at a minimum. You just are. Do you really spend a lot of time worrying about what everybody else is doing? You get to worry about yourself. And Chris, the days of it, now look, maybe it changes. Maybe we'll one day end up at a time where it's, Chad, embarrassing. Texas is going to be a preseason number 1. They have Arch Manning as their quarterback. We're coming out of a weekend where the starting quarterback at Texas is being profiled on ESPN because he went and hung out in some urban areas of St. Louis. Mm-hmm. Texas is on the tip of the tongues of everybody nationally. They just signed the number 1 recruiting class in the country. They just went to the national semifinals 2 years in a row. They're the only program in the country that's done that. Was it embarrassing that KJ Edwards went to A&M? Is that really the right word, Chris? It was embarrassing?
And remember, Catch, let's just get clarified. S. Roan does point out Christopher overreacts a lot. Christopher is the guy that said rock was not music. And according to Michelle.
That was Christopher?
That was Christopher. And according to Michelle, Christopher may need some rogue shop. So Christopher does go big, bold take pretty often. So I do look at the chat a lot. Christopher will jump in there with some crazy every once in a while. So that's true.
You know how I feel like? You know who I feel like right now, Chad? Dennis Hopper's character in True Romance. I kind of want to talk to Christopher Walken and lay out all the stuff that I've just said. And they go, now you tell me, am I lying? Mm-hmm. What lies have been Hall of Fame college football? One lie. I give you the entire Specs chat is yours. What's the lie? Because I would argue I'm serving facts. I'm serving facts supported by math every time. That's the prism through which I'm trying to get Texas fans to view the world in recruiting. How upset should you be at KJ Edwards? At best, there's about a 30 or 40% chance he turns into a drafted NFL player. Those are great odds, by the way. Like, I'm telling you, he matters. But he still misses more than he hits. It's why any single player rarely matters. You have to collect them in bunches. Oklahoma's not playing for a fucking national championship because they signed Michael Fasusi. What they needed last year were 10 Michael Fasusis. Not all at the same position. They needed a Michael Fasusi at defensive tackle. They needed a Michael Fasusi at quarterback. They needed a Michael Fasusi at wide receiver. They needed a Michael Fasusi at safety. They needed a Michael Fasusi on the edge. And then you know what they need to do? They need 3 or 4 classes every year where they do that. When you do that, as I've said, then KJ Edwards doesn't really matter anymore. He's a faceless proposition. You just want someone with the profile. But when you don't have talent stacked up, do you know what you do? You fall in love with every big-time guy that comes across because you don't have any of them. Think about the way Texas fans have reacted with Michael Fasusi. And Chad will know I sternly lectured them on this a year ago. Because I am a believer that a bird in the hand is worth one in the bush. But a year ago, when Texas was on the verge of losing Michael Fasusi, Texas fans were saying it doesn't matter because John Turntine is next.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Felix Ojo wasn't even in the conversation yet. They were saying that he didn't matter because Turntine was next. Now, I thought that was stupid because that doesn't mean you shouldn't want Michael Fasusi. What you should want is Michael Fasusi and John Turntine. Like, that's the goal. But you don't want to be dismissive of the value of the immediate because of what's next. But they did have the right mindset of, all right, well, we lost Fasusi. Well, we know with this staff, they'll go get the next one. And that kind of what I feel about KJ Edwards. I kind of feel like if Texas wants a nationally elite running back, they'll go Justice Terry somebody in November. The question I have is, will they get to November and December and look at the running back position and say, we desperately need a big-time guy to come in? Or are they going to say, CJ Baxter came back healthy, Wisner's got another year, Christian Clark is rehabbing, it turns out James Simon is a badass. Are they going to come back next year and say, are they going to in December look at the position and go, we got our top 4 guys all coming back. They rushed for 2,500 yards combined. How desperate will they feel like in 2026 they've got to spend 7 figures on a running back? And I don't know. I tend to think that the answer will be they probably won't in December feel like and if they do, it might be that they feel like, well, if we're going to do that, let's do it in the portal and let's just get an All-American. If we're going to do it, let's buy a guy because we feel like we need somebody to make an instant impact that we're going to pay $1 million. Then maybe you find that guy through the portal, because it's possible that you could bring in a KJ Edwards with his kind of recruiting profile. And the thing that could happen to him at Texas is what happened to Brandon Baker last year, which is 5-star level talent. But, oh, by the way, Cam Williams and Kelvin Banks are upperclassmen at the position. And it was like, well, that dude's not going to play. And he didn't. And what did we hear from sources last year? God, we really hadn't thought about what it would mean to pay Brandon Baker $750,000 and not play. Is that the best way for us? Because when you lose a national championship by the thinnest of microscopic hairs on your chinny chin chin, by the way, I need to shave. I literally have little hairs on my chinny chin chin. When you lose a national championship because another team had one more badass player, right? It felt like Ohio State and Texas were separated by, oh, you had just a couple of more guys that were healthy, right? Think about it. Cam Williams hurt. Isaiah Bond hurt. Matthew Golden hurt. If those 3 players are healthy, and instead Ohio State's right tackle, Jeremiah Smith and Emeka
Egbuka.
If they were all 50% or worse, we all think that game probably goes the other way. That's the way it goes. The fine margins are so thin that by the time we get to December and January and everybody's lived this process, the one thing we haven't done, Chad, we haven't lived a year where there's revenue spending. Nobody's ever done it before.
Right.
When we get to next December, every school in the country will have learned lessons from the first December and January with revenue sharing. Everybody's going to learn like, oh, crap. You know what? We gave KJ, if you're A&M, you may learn like we gave KJ Edwards $2 million to come to A&M, and then he hurt his knee, or then he flung. I don't know. I don't want to put bad juju on the kid, right? But like, he doesn't start. And then in December of next year, if you're A&M, you're like, you know what? We got to make sure of our revenue sharing money, everybody's got to play. Can we give up any of our $17 million to somebody to sit the bench? And if you're not competing for national championships, maybe the answer is yes. But if you're Texas and you're Ohio State and Georgia, can you stash 4 of your 17 million on players who make no impact in any given year? Like, I don't know. These are all lived experiences that until we get there. And so a year ago, Texas would go, man, I don't know how smart it was for us to pay Brandon Baker $700,000-ish, then to play and not have an impact on the field. Like, that was dead money. But it might be that Brandon Baker is your starting right tackle this year. And at the end of that season, you'll go, you know what? That was money well invested. Yes, we spent $1.5 million to get 4 months of production from Brandon Baker, but that son of a bitch is good. Yeah. He's going to play in the NFL. And Chad, at that point, you'll look at the money that sat on the bench and you'd probably say to yourself, money well spent. But if at the end of the year, Brandon Baker is having a hard time keeping a hold of his job and he doesn't look like a future NFL player, what will we say about the $1 million+ that they invested over 2 years to have him on the roster?
Yeah, definitely not well spent. And you're paying him to sit.
And these are things that you've got to try to answer before you have to answer them. It's like, you want us to have hindsight with Brandon Baker. You want us, with the benefit of hindsight, to make decisions before the hindsight's available. And it's like, yep, because if you don't, if you screw up, you've killed your ability to compete at the highest levels.
All right, couple of super chats we will get to. Also, Catch, I don't think you're going to get what we need out of HOF because he's clearly not a fan of yours, but there's nothing specific in the chat. So HOF, if you can put something specific, that's cool. Otherwise, you're wasting our time. All right, Catch, let's
you know what I'm going to do, guys? I am blocking the user. Boom, he's gone. No more Hall of Fame golden football.
You go. That's one thing.
I tried. Right. Did I try to be a good person?
You tried. And Michelle tried too. Michelle thinks he needs a little Rogue Shop. So why don't you tell the folks about Rogue Shop and maybe HOF can get some help?
HOF, I feel bad for the guy. Clearly, I have Rogue Shop available to me, and he doesn't. By the way, Chad, not my favorite background of the DKR Stadium. I'm going to show you which one is the one, our go-to. It's in the old-fashioned folder. I don't know how to move it over. I guess I should be talking about Rogue. I took Rogue, and this is why I'm distracted right now in the middle of a live read about Rogue. You want to feel good? You want your pain to go away? You want to sleep? I slept last night. I took a gummy. Anxiousness, all that stuff. There's so many things that we deal with, and Rogue Shop has products that make all of it better. It's about improving your quality of life. It's that simple. They are Texas' home for legal CBD, THC, and so much more. And you won't know unless you scan that QR code or go to the website. Go to rogueshop.com, do a little bit of shopping, get hooked up today. Chad, you did it. You made the change, didn't you?
I did.
It's a more vibrant color. It's the same background, but that orange, what happened was I was at Anwar's house and it was a day that I took a day off and we were watching you. Mm-hmm. In his man cave. So he has like the big AV consultation size TV.
Yeah.
And you pop up because we were watching you. Mm-hmm. And that background pops on the TV. So good. This is the background. So you know.
Fair enough. I thought we were using the one you liked, but I didn't know it had moved.
It pops on the screen vibrantly. So that's so you know.
There you go. All right. Nothing like pulling the curtain during the show. All right.
We're at the 56-minute mark. We can talk about lunch at this point.
That is fantastic. We may do that. All right. Let's grab these super chats. Heartbeat 10 with a $5 super chat. Off topic. You can wait until the end. Buy or sell. You would take Arch, one and done, and a natty.
Buy.
Or Arch for guaranteed 3 years and let the chips fall.
Hey, man, I thought you were going to say you could have Arch, one and done, and a natty, or you sell your soul to the devil.
Right.
Dude, Texas has won national championship since 1970. You're asking, would you take one guaranteed versus a non-guarantee of a few more years with non-guarantees, I'll take the one. Take the one. It's the greatest moment of most people's life. You're basically saying, I'm going to give you the greatest single moment of your life.
Right. But hey, for those that love to gamble, Catch, you could also roll them dice and say, well, you know what? It's Arch, so one of those 3 years probably gets you the title anyway.
Maybe.
It did with Colt McCoy.
Sometimes guys get hurt in the national championship game.
You're right. That does happen. By the way, Oscar is into it today. $4.99 super chat. Catch is Isaac Newton, and recruiting theory is his calculus. Class is in session, bitches. Oscar, thank you for jumping in from the 40 acre.
To be educated. I hate it. And I've told this to Sukamel because, Sukamel's trying to sell subscriptions. So when a kid commits, Texas gets huge commitment. It's like, well, no, he's not a super blue chip. Can we really call something huge if it misses 80% of the time? He's like, I'm just trying to put a post and people read. And I'm like, yeah, but we want to oversell. Like, my whole thing is I want to properly sell the right things. And on everything that comes without anything remotely close to a guarantee on the box of at least 33.67, anything less than that, I am never going to tell you that you should jump off a fucking cliff because you lost something that misses 80% of the time. You never. It's the one thing you'll get from me. I will not placate y'all's feelings. I will not, because you want me to tell you that some kid who's rated as a 4-star is the best thing that's ever happened. I won't do it. But you know what? Others will. They bullshit you. You like to be BS. You say you don't. You love it. You love the dopamine hit that comes with being told that something is awesome. I can't do it. The funny thing about the whole HOF thing was that, look, man, I'm wrong all the time. I am. The show started and I had to have been wrong in the last hour about something. At least one thing. I say crazy things sometimes, but I don't lie. You don't go to the specific detail of what I do in recruiting. It's bad for business. What I do is not good for me. It does not make people want to sign up and read recruiting reports. They want to hear everybody's great. And look, Baylor will sign a recruiting class. It's like 40th in the country. And the people that cover their teams will tell them, great class. This guy's a great prospect. No, he's not. Are there any super blue chips in that group? No, none of them are great. Don't use the word great. And I have seen the data so much so that you guys wouldn't know if I was lying. Because it would sound exactly like the opposite of everything I say on a daily basis. If I were to show up and tell you that somebody is a great prospect and the word super blue chips not in it, you know I'm lying to you. It's as simple as that. The thing is, I'm telling you that the others are liars. Call them out on it. If I'm lying ever, tell me where I'm lying. I won't do it again. Sadly, much to the chagrin of people I do shows with, much to the chagrin of people on Orange Bloods that I work with, sometimes I tell the truth too much. It's bad for business, if I'm being completely honest. We live in a society, you guys want to be lied to. Sorry, I won't do it. And it's one of the reasons why, I don't know, maybe we're not as successful as I want us to be.
That was a hell of a ramble right there. That was a really interesting path that you took. All right.
I can be selfish, Chad. I just don't lie.
No. I appreciate that about you. We like the honesty. Hopefully that's what they like about you too. If y'all want to throw in a super chat, we will get to it. In fact, Hank's got a super chat and is nice enough to ask both of our opinions on something. Before we do that, let me hit AB consultations. Catch mentioned him just a second ago. He said he and Anwar were watching the show when Catch took a day off and that things popped on a big screen. If you're watching the show on a big screen, we appreciate those of you that do that. But if you know it needs to pop a little more, this is the place that can help you do it. AV Consultations, 255-8678. You're about 70-something days away from Texas and Ohio State as we are talking. So make sure you're the place in town you want to go. Make sure you're the place in the neighborhood everybody wants to gather, and make sure you're the place in the family that when it comes Thanksgiving week and you're coming, or maybe it's right before that Arkansas A&M double at the end. Maybe you're not getting to DKR. You're going to have everybody over for those two games. Make sure you have a badass setup. They've been doing this since 1988. They'll make sure you're set up right. 255-8678 or go to avconsultations.com. Check them out. All right. We had one other super chat I think that we needed to clean up. And believe it or not, it's about the Aggies. $4.99 super chat. Hank says, Catch, never really heard this from you, but what are your thoughts on the direction of A&M football? Chad would love your thoughts too. Oh, Hank, you're sweet. Catch, you want this first or you want me to go first?
I mean, this is I said even earlier in the show, I like Mike Elko. I think he is a perfectly solid head coach at this level. I think A&M as a program has the upside to recruit at an elite level. We've seen them do that before. The problem that A&M has is the Tom Herman problem, in a sense. Not that he's flipping cameras off or anything like that, but that it's possible that he's very good. And in order to be a success in this sport, you just have to be elite. And this really translates to Oklahoma as well. It's not, I say all the time, I loved the GM hire that OU made. I think Venables is a really good defensive coach. Like this isn't a pass-fail class in the sense of, I don't think a guy's either great or terrible and nowhere in between, but it is a sport that does grade itself on pass-fail. Did you win a championship? No, fail. Did you win a championship? Pass, succeed. The problem that Elko has is that he's come along at a time where Texas doesn't have Tom Herman, who was very good, but not elite. He's competing against a Steve Sarkisian that I would argue hasn't yet proven completely that he's elite of the elite. It's 2 seasons, and we've seen flash in the pans occur before, but everything about the role that Sarkisian has this program on suggests that it's on an elite trajectory. So the problem that both OU and A&M has is that every single season that they have will be judged by the success that Texas is either having or not having. So Elko could do a really good job, but if for 5 or 4 consecutive years they lose to Texas or finish behind Texas in the standings, they're going to change head coaches. And they're going to do that at Oklahoma. And it doesn't mean just like Texas didn't think Tom Herman was terrible. Now, some people in the administration thought Tom Herman was a terrible human being. But hey, some people think that about me. The one thing Tom and I both have in common, we're white men. We have those 2 things in common. We have penises. So there's 3 things we have in common. Although
wow,
that's the same thing as being a man. And I don't actually know that Tom. I know what I have. I don't know if Tom has.
Get the list together. Hang on 1 second.
We both have like 10 fingers and 2 arms, right? But we both have like our detractors, right? But like while Tom had his detractors, everybody would admit he did good work. What Texas was trying to do, at least what they said, when they made the move from Tom Herman to Steve Sarkisian, was that they felt like they were in the land of very good and they want to be elite. And they knew they were taking a chance and going after somebody they hoped would be elite. They were convinced that Tom Herman would never be anything than very good. And I don't know about Elko or Venables that they're elite. What Sark has done in the last 2 years is elite. Can he continue to do that? It needs to be proven, but all of the signs suggest that they're ascending and that they haven't peaked. And again, I think the problem that Elko has, my thoughts on A&M football is it's really tough to be the A&M head football coach because you say things like, we're going to be the best team in the country. And people are like, stop. You know, there's something so close to you that's important enough that you call it a rival that's notches above you in terms of current standing And until you hit that level of current standing, my thoughts, the direction of A&M football by everybody will be deemed underwhelming and underperforming. You cannot be significantly behind Texas in any respect, especially when you're in the same conference, and think that the direction of the program is good. Same thing with Texas. If the roles were flipped and Texas was Texas A&M and Texas A&M was Texas, so A&M was getting ready to be the number one team in the country going into this season, if Texas ends up in the top 15 when the season's over, I mean, they had a good year, but nobody is excited by that because the shadow of that other thing hovers. Texas had to deal with that with Oklahoma for the better part of 2 decades. That really hard to judge the Texas success because its primary rival was winning the conference and beating them every year on the field. And so it's like, how do you get excited about a 9-3 season when your rival is besting you and bested you and beat you 4 out of 5 times or 5 out of 6 times? It's hard to be positive about any direction at all when those realities exist. And I think that Hank, A&M and Oklahoma have to circumvent the fact that right now they've got to find a way to get progress going forward and not have people focused on what Texas is doing and not the progress. And it's really hard to do.
Hank, appreciate the super chat. My quick thoughts would be, I think Mike Elko is real. I just don't know if he's real good. We're going to have to find out. They need what Jimbo's teams needed. They need dynamic offense. They don't have it yet.
I think the same thing about Elko that I thought about Fisher. They're real good.
Right. There's some, they can get to that real good status, but the offenses that they put on the field have just not been good enough.
It's hard to be elite, man. If everybody was elite, the word elite would mean something else.
Right. And they've also been stubborn. Like, we'll see if Elko's stubborn. Fisher was stubborn. He was stubborn that he knew best. And his offensive style would be, he wouldn't let Bobby Petrino be Bobby Petrino, according to reports. And I mean the football version, not the motorcycle version. So the key here is if Mike Elko lets Colin Klein be Colin Klein, what does that mean? What does it mean in 2025, 2026, 2027 in the SEC?
Yeah.
I'm just not sure. Georgia figured out how to make a deal with the offensive devil. They figured it out. They figured out how to be dynamic enough. And Texas certainly is the kind of team that's dynamic. And Ohio State has it. Michigan finds those moments. A&M's just felt clunky on offense. They've got to figure that part out. So that's kind of my overall. And then, Hank, the other thing is, to catch his point about Elko, like at times he feels like a football coach, but does he feel like a badass elite Sark, Kirby, Saban, Dabo kind of football coach? Sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he doesn't. So,
and look, Sark in his first 2 years didn't. You know, it's like,
yeah,
there is a little bit of like, I don't think Elko is special, but I leave open the possibility that I could be wrong. And that, boy, something as simple as just recruiting a bunch of badass classes and stacking them on top of each other turned Matt Brown from the guy who couldn't win the big one to a national championship winning coach. And then he just didn't talk about him in the same context anymore. So, you know, Les Miles was more than capable with the right amount of talent around him. So I'm not completely dismissive of Elko. If A&M can be patient and he can be really, really good,
right,
then there's an elevation that can take place. But it does take time. Texas,
yep,
2 seasons into Sark, did not look elite at all. Yep. But in year 3, you saw what a little bit of patience and letting him stack his good work on top of more good work. You know, if Elko's able to sign a top 5 class, which it looks like they're probably on pace to do this year, don't overreact. It's the first real true building block. Then the
did you just tell A&M football fans not to overreact?
Well, because they had the 2022 recruiting class.
Yes, they did.
They needed 2 more like it to make that really matter.
Yep.
And then it dissolved before that could even happen. So what made Texas's number one recruiting class wasn't in a vacuum that they signed the number one recruiting class. It was that they signed the number one recruiting class after back-to-back top 5 classes. And suddenly the totality of their numbers are on the level of Georgia and Ohio State, where even as recent as a year ago, they were pretty distant behind. And 2 years ago, they were way behind. They've been able to cut the gap between elite of the elite and themselves so that it's minuscule. But now the real hard parts about Sarkisian's quality come into play, because he will have a talent advantage over everybody he plays this season except for 2 teams, Georgia and Ohio State. Pretty much a wash. Now, they could have a quarterback advantage in both of those games.
Yeah.
And they may have advantages in some positions, and then Ohio State and Georgia might have advantages in other positions. And together, you put them all together, it's like a coin flip game. Okay. But in every other game, Texas will have a significant talent advantage, even over Florida. And Florida recruits like a mother, and they've got a 5-star quarterback in their own right. But Texas will have a serious talent advantage over everybody they play. And you know what has to happen? You have to win those games. Like, those are the games that if you don't win, you're not special. Because it's the thing that Mac was great at, when he talked about they'd win 10 games a season every year for 10 straight years. Do you know how many games as favorites you have to win to make that happen? You got to win them all.
I was going to say every single game. They'd ask Mac about that stuff, about, what's the most important game? The next one. What's the game you can't lose? All of them. Like, what are you talking about?
And at the end, you look at his winning percentage. You go, oh, he's got like a 90% winning percentage.
Yeah.
How many of the big games did he win? Not a ton. How many big games did he play in? A lot. Well, how did that happen? He won a bunch of games.
Yep.
And
he beat all those teams he was supposed to beat. He certainly did that.
And I think one of the impressive things about what Sarkisian's done in each of the last 2 years, when they're losing games, they're not losing. There's no Vanderbilt on the resume, right? Last year, they lost to Georgia at home. It sucked. But when it was over with at the end of the season, after 12 games, I won't use Christopher Summers' words. You weren't embarrassed. You were like, well, embarrassing would have been losing in Vanderbilt, quite frankly. Like, did you make the playoffs? We did. We snuck in. Well, why did you sneak in? Well, we had to worry about that Vanderbilt loss or the Tech losses in years gone by, right?
Alabama fans got to use the word embarrassing last season, right?
Couple times. Yep.
Yeah, twice for sure. I would have. If I'm wearing houndstooth, you can't do that at Vandy. You can't do that at OU.
And at the end, they're talking about, well, we didn't make the playoffs, and we think we were one of the best 12 teams that were. And what happened? Well, if you'd just beaten Vanderbilt, you'd have been in.
Yeah, just win one of those.
You'd had 2 games.
Yeah, just only get embarrassed the one time, and you'd have been in the playoff.
So, anyway.
Yeah. All right. Let's we'll clean off some chats. I definitely want to get this one chat in because you will enjoy it, Catch. But first, look at this. I got somebody from high school, from one WHS class of '93 to another. Love the show all the way from Atlanta. Keep up the good work. What up, Kung Fu Wabbit? I don't know who that is. But hey, you know what? You keep your anonymity and shout out.
I like Kung Fu Wabbit.
Kung Fu Wabbit is a good one. Sal in New York, we both know this guy. Catch, you never said OU Texas. Herman did, and for some reason, it pissed me off. I remember that one. I do remember that one when he said OU Texas. That can't do that. Can't do that in October. If you do,
Mom had a habit of doing things you can't do.
Yeah, right. You got to fit. Yeah.
And look,
he piled up a lot of the conduct unbecoming the Texas head coach. And unlike your situation, maybe somebody could say you've done something that they didn't feel like the owner of Orange Blood should do. But Tom Herman piled up some where I'm like, yeah, the head coach at Texas can't do that stuff. He just can't. And there were like three or four like big blinking ones that you just couldn't do. That's why, Catch, you talked about early on with Sark. When Sark yelled at that dude at the bowl game, I didn't think to myself, oh my God, that's just a huge, but I thought, don't pile up 4 of those.
Yeah.
Don't keep doing that. Don't have a story later where you pushed Kirk Bowles to the ground at an event or something because you got mad. Like, don't do that. Don't be that guy.
You know my philosophy on that specific story.
I'm not sure if we've ever discussed that specific story.
Never touch a man's man boob.
Yeah.
No matter how big or small they are.
Yeah.
Look, we're kids. When you're 8 years old or 12 years old and you get a little bit older, it changes. But early on, as a guy, what's the one thing another guy's not allowed to do to you? Not including like anything related to the nuts, right? You can't kick, punch, anything like that.
Kick you in the crotch.
No titty twisters, man.
Right, you can't do that.
There's never been a man on earth that's been like, hey, you know what doesn't bother me when somebody tries to twist my man breast.
Yeah, I'd rather you go messing with my ears. I'd rather have wet willies than that.
For real. So I watched that, and like that dude went in and grabbed Sark's man boob. Like Sark doesn't have big man boobs, but they're still his boobs.
Right.
It's still the breast part of his chest.
Yeah, you don't.
He lost his shit. Don't touch that man's chest. You never do that.
Right. So again, yeah, in its own vacuum, it had, like you said, it had just don't have a lot, and he didn't have like 4 or 5 more of those later on. Kind of like, you know.
Hey man, I'm telling you, go back and watch that Sarkeesian video, and now watch it with the understanding of catches right. You never touch a man's chest area like that, right? And go back to Sark looks down.
Yeah, he looked.
He looks down like, you did not.
Yeah. And he just changed. He just put him in a whole nother world.
Because we get defensive and we do like karate moves. And hey, don't you twist. Where do you think we are? You don't do that.
Can't do it. No, you can't do that. That's true.
Seriously, if we were kids playing around and somebody did that, that is a cardinal sin. Whoa! You went in with the twister. You don't do that.
Yeah, can't do it. No twisters, kids. No twisters. All right, a couple other chats to clear off today. Wikipedia. Hello, gentlemen. I'm listening to y'all while on vacation in San Francisco because I got to get my house divided, fixed daily. Oh, by the way, the weather is nice. Wikipedia, I bet it is compared to what we're dealing with here in Texas. Hope you are having a good trip. And catch, in case you were wondering, Christopher did jump in with music he likes. Are you ready? 3 examples of music.
Can I guess before you put it up?
Yes.
Buddy Holly.
I think you're
Willie.
Uh-huh.
And Merle.
Christopher's going to surprise you. Bad Bunny, The Weeknd, and Beyonce. That's music for Christopher. Christopher, that's well played. I do not agree. No. Let me just say, I don't agree with your full discussion because I think all of it's music that you've discussed, and I like all of the stuff. But I love that you're standing where you're standing. You continue to make that argument because nobody can account for taste in music. So there you go. Bad Bunny's a yes. And for Christopher, the Stones and Pearl Jam are a big no. What are you going to do? Christopher, thank you for adding into the show. I appreciate it.
What about if one of them samples a rock song?
Hey, you know what? The test is coming, Catch, because the word on the street is that the 3rd chapter of Beyonce Blows Everybody's Mind is a rock album. Because she did Renaissance, which essentially was like, I'm going to redefine club music. Then she did Cowboy Carter. I'm going to show y'all I can do a country record. But there's a theory out there that she's headed to a rock album next.
So we'll get like an album of Janet Jackson doing Black Cat?
I don't know. Will Christopher be into the new Beyonce record if it's a rock album?
Did you pay attention when Janet did Black Cat?
Yeah. I was paying attention for Janet in that era.
It was kind of hot, wasn't it? Like
it was.
Janet, when she decided she was going to wear like the all black pants and like that was her thing. She was kind of the Johnny Cash of R&B.
And also when an artist like that will incorporate the guitars and not be afraid, like it's pretty bad. When Michael Jackson did Dirty Diana, there's a reason it's my favorite Michael Jackson song because it had that feel to it. I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. What do you go, Mike?
I'm here for a Beyonce rock album.
Yeah, I would absolutely check that out. All right. It is probably just about buy or sell.
You think she'll get Gary Clark Jr. to, be like a session worker? Like, I just have to believe, like, if
That'd
she's
be
doing a
good.
rock album, like, it's going to have some baddies on there.
Beyonce and Gary Clark Jr. on a track. That is not a combo I would have thought of, but yes, I need that. I need that badly. Before we possibly wrap up here, now you guys want to send us a super chat, we will go a little longer to read your super chat. I promise. But real quick, let's hear from Specs and Lisa, and then maybe we buy or sell. Here we go.
Texans know for selection and lower prices, it all starts at Specs.
Shop Specs!
No matter what's on the menu, we've got you covered. With all your favorites on tap, you'll bring home the win.
Shop Specs!
Special occasion? Flirt responsibly. Boots on, drinks up. The fun starts here.
Shop Specs, low priced, amazing. Here's to you.
Shop!
Cheers to savings.
All right, Catch, are you ready to buy or sell, or do we need to hit something else?
No, we're good. Let's buy or sell and get the hell out of Dodge.
First or second?
I'll go second.
All right, here we go. Back to the original KJ Edwards discussion. Buy or sell number one, Catch. Your 1 to 10 shock level if KJ Edwards cancels his official visit to Texas this weekend would be an 8.
Sell. Shock? No.
Okay.
I mean, nothing shocks me. Shocks? I wasn't shocked. I was surprised yesterday that he committed to A&M, but I wasn't shocked. And,
Okay.
you know, I mean, shock? No.
Okay. In terms of the plan moving forward, buy or sell number 2, Texas should A, get KJ in for an official visit before signing day, and B, hit whatever NIL button that needs to be hit. Buy or sell?
Sell. I mean, I just don't think the running back position is so valuable that by any means necessary needs to be in play.
Okay. Real
There
quick.
there is a cap of some variety.
Okay.
And
Okay. Does that extend outside the state? Because I was going to ask you about Crowell or like a Derek Cooper. Is there a running back in America that you would tell him, hey, you got to do, or would you just tell him to stay away?
I mean, I think it comes down to what they think they have on campus and how good they think that guy is. If they think one of these guys is Adrian Peterson, then you do what you by any means necessary.
Right. Okay.
If, you know, but none of these guys are that to me. There's not, and I think these guys are all tremendous prospects. I have them rated super blue chips, but none of these guys are 6 stars. And without knowing the numbers behind the scenes, I don't know what it means from a financial outlay to give a running back 5-star money or borderline 5-star money. If it were to come down between, well, we can give him that, but that then means we don't have enough money to bring in Tyler Atkinson for a visit and then take Tyler Atkinson's commitment because we're up against it financially. I would be like, well, then KJ Edwards can go wherever he wants. So again, there are just conversation pieces about this that are new to the art of recruiting. And Texas is, I think, in a more restrictive place, not because they don't have money, but because almost certainly a lot of their revenue sharing money will be accounted for already before guys in this class enter the picture. Now, a number of guys in this class will take up a real healthy chunk of that, but you know, if the dream is Lamar Brown, if the dream is Felix Ojo, if the dream is some of these other guys, they're going to be incredibly expensive. And I think, look, I suppose we need to see how all of this unfolds. How strict will Deloitte be, or Deloitte? How many deals are getting rejected? Does the cost of doing business go down because of this? There's still some unknowns, but I just, think about it like the Dallas Cowboys when they had DeMarco Murray. We all agreed at the time DeMarco was one of the best players on the team. In a perfect world, you'd like to have had DeMarco Murray coming back for the next season. But DeMarco Murray, and that was the year that he almost had like a bazillion yards all purpose. Like they used the shit out of him that year, his last year with Dallas.
Yep.
But what they decided was, we can't pay top of the NFL money to a running back. And when they made that decision, we were like, Bravo, Jerry. Bravo. And then when they did the opposite with Ezekiel Elliott, we were like, wait a minute. I thought we learned a lesson with DeMarco Murray that you don't do this with the running back position, and then they just don't learn lessons. But we know that there are general rules at the running back position that NFL teams don't like to allocate a lot of their budget to that position. I have to believe the rules would be similar in college football to some degree. So, I'm caught in between two places because I want to acknowledge tremendous pickup by A&M. This is a guy that I think has a chance to be a star in college. But there are conversations about where's your budget? How much remaining budget do you have left for 2026? And how do you think you want to use that budget? And what would it mean to extend the budget to get a KJ Edwards if it cut out of your ability, your viability to go get somebody that you have ranked more important? These are conversations that have never existed before in college football. They exist now. And I don't think it's sour grapes to potentially go, well, we couldn't extend ourselves if you're Texas or Texas A&M. Look, they have another running back commitment. I mentioned him earlier in the show. Their second highest rated running back commitment in Texas in the 2026 class is a guy that's at running back. Mm-hmm. Can you afford both of those guys? Like, will they lose one of these guys?
Right.
Because was the difference between those guys so substantial that it was worth losing one guy versus the other? And the answer may be, yeah, we think KJ Edwards is light years better than the other guy. Or they might say internally, we had those guys kind of bunched together and it doesn't make more sense for us to pay one guy significantly more than the other if we can have both. If we rate them exactly the same and we can get one guy cheaper than the other guy, then would you take the cheaper deal? But if there's a difference in talent levels, how wide is it? Can you justify the degrees of difference between those two cash outlays? If you can, cool.
Yeah.
And clearly I would suggest that A&M can. They know they've got a really good running back pickup. They went and got a super blue chip and basically said, we don't care about the feelings of this other guy. We want this guy. So they answered that question, yes. I do think we'll see situations this year where Ohio State and Texas and Georgia lose players that we thought they would otherwise get. Justice Terry's a good example for Georgia a year ago. Sometimes it's just easier to say no instead of, yep, we'll match. And then what's the trickle-down impact of all of that? Well, then we got to pay our other 5 stars more money as a consequence of all of that. And suddenly we're eating into our revenue sharing money in ways we don't want to. There will be hard professional football type decisions that I think are made with finances in play that today sounds crazy.
Yeah. And we were also talking about the A&M offense earlier. I could also see an argument catch in December that A&M might tell me they are going to spend that money. They're going to hit that NIL button for a running back in a way that Texas wouldn't. That makes sense to me.
Yeah. And the thing is, what we can't do is go, oh, you guys are making excuses. And it's like, well, no, kudos to A&M, but there are layers upon layers upon. And again, when we go back to what have I said Texas needs as a general manager, even if I don't care if you call him a general manager.
Right.
You need somebody who has cap experience, somebody who literally has done this before. Yep. Because what all of these schools are doing is working with an unofficial salary cap, and they've never had that before. Yep. And you have to get to a point where you make some hard decisions. You have to turn a guy back, because if you say yes, it might impact the situation of 3 or 4 others, or maybe then you can't afford to pay the quarterback. If LSU took a KJ Edwards last year, did that keep them from being able to keep Bryce Underwood? Now, in their instance, it doesn't sound like it, but it could be that you have so much success spending money that you don't have enough to do the business at the end that you want to do. These are just the layers that are in play in 2026. And I'm just telling you right now, all of you that watch the show, y'all are going to annoy me to no end if I see quit making excuses. And it's like, well, no, this is your sport now.
Yep.
This is your sport.
It is. This is what's happening. All right. Speaking of sports, let's hit another one, Catch, and go trivia time. Buy or sell number 3. The Florida Panthers won back-to-back Stanley Cups last night. You can tell me the last Canadian team to win it.
Buy. It had to have been the Oilers.
It is not. It is not.
Who?
1993 is the last time it happened. It was the Montreal Canadiens.
Oh.
They beat Barry Melrose as a coach. They beat Wayne Gretzky as a player. So it has been 31 straight champions that are American.
It's so wrong.
In the NHL. But here's your
why
next.
I was rooting for Edmonton to beat the Stars.
Right.
All things being equal, I would always root for the Stars. But, like, it feels wrong that the NHL hasn't had a Canadian champion in 3 decades.
It's so weird. Now, here's what I did, Catch. I checked. So I went back to 1992 and then counted all the way back to 1963. So in the previous 31 seasons, how many Canadian champions were there in the NHL?
Out of how many?
Out of 31 years, how many of those 31 were Canadian champions from 63 to 92?
21.
Wow. You hit it on the head. Well
Hey,
done.
man, every once in a while.
21 is correct. Congrats to the Panthers. That run of American teams continues.
Suck on that, Canada.
Well done, Catch. All right, let's hit another sport. Buy or sell number 4. Fights in the WNBA make you like it more.
Sell.
Okay.
I've never You know what? It feels like maybe it's the Rudy T thing. It always feels like in basketball, somebody could get hurt. I watch hockey guys beat each other up and baseball guys get into brawls and football. Like, it doesn't feel like fighting. It feels like skirmishing.
The basketball makes you worry.
Basketball, you see haymakers get thrown.
Yeah.
You can't throw a haymaker in hockey because you're on skates. Try to throw a haymaker, you just fall down.
They got gloves on. There's
something about like 6'8" guys.
Yeah.
Throwing haymakers that, like, I'm always worried for people.
Yeah, it's not quite as I get what you're saying. It's not quite as distinct for me on the women's side, but I mean, there are some freaks in the WNBA, and you're talking about women that are up at like 6'2", 6'3", 6'4" at times, big athletic women, and they, like you said, if they really take a swing or push, I mean, they can hurt somebody. Stuff.
Yeah. So yeah. I don't know. I don't watch. I like physical basketball.
Yeah.
But I don't need to see fights break out.
I'm just letting everybody know.
You're losing your best players too. Like, hockey, they'll let them fight. And
they threw like 2 or 3 players out of a game last night after a Caitlin Clark situation. Not Caitlin, but her coach is saying it's a problem in the whole damn league. So if y'all want to see a rumble, it's going on in the WNBA right now, apparently. Finally, Catch, somebody threw out a who would you rather see in concert the other day. So I extended it because I think we both picked the Eagles in a battle with Billy Joel. I wanted to see what you do with this one. Buy or sell number 5. In their prime, you'd rather see the Eagles than Aerosmith. Buy or sell?
Oh, yeah, buy. And they're prime for sure.
Okay. There you go.
I feel like with the Eagles and essentially their leave of absence. Isn't that what Don Henley called it?
The leave of absence. Some of us call that the 80s, but yes,
we didn't break up. We just took 9 years leave of absence.
Right. We took a decade off and redefined radio without knowing it.
We never broke up. We just had a leave of absence for 9 years. In their leave of absence, it was all about the music before the leave of absence. For Aerosmith, outside of Dream On, it's kind of everything post Run DMC that is the music of theirs that I like the most. It's kind of 87 to 91. And then you start getting to Crazy and some of the Alicia Silverstone videos. And I'm like, oh, can we do Dude Looks Like a Lady again? Like, so there's a window of time, but I don't think that's their prime. Whereas the Eagles' prime was before the Hell Freezes Over tour. It was everything that happened before. And so in the prime, you're getting the Eagles' best. In the Aerosmith prime, they're one of those bands that has 2 songs, I think, from the 70s that I really want to hear. And then it's like, okay, now play the 80s.
Interesting. All right. I'm a huge Aerosmith mark, so I'd go the other way.
I did Aerosmith in concert like 4 times.
But I get what you're saying.
But I'm
All
telling you, like, my Aero, look, I don't care that it's 137. You ask me a music question, I'm going to be your Huckleberry.
Mm-hmm.
If I go, okay, here it is. Just bear with me. I'm going to my Aerosmith Spotify playlist, okay?
By the way, Mark, hell of a first concert. Aerosmith was my first concert, Skid Row Open. It's a good show, Mark. I like that one.
What was your first concert? I know mine.
Tina Turner, Private Dancer Tour.
Alabama, Heart of Texas Coliseum, baby.
Damn. Yeah, Tina Turner with Mr. opening was my first show ever. Yeah.
Sounds like a badass show. All right, I tell you what, it's going to take me a little bit of time to find my Aerosmith thing. So is it my turn?
Look, it is your turn. Hang on. Rex has one for you. Aerosmith is overrated. Ragdoll is in the top 3 worst songs of all time.
Worst songs of all time?
I love that level of musical commitment there. Worst songs of all time. Ragdoll, bottom 3. Okay. All right, Rex. Rex, not an Aerosmith guy. All right, Catch. What do you got?
Buy or sell number 1. You watched exactly 0 minutes of the Stanley Cup Finals.
That's a sell. I set it to record in the early parts of the 3rd period. I always make sure to watch when the Stanley Cup is presented. So I fast forwarded to the end. I watched some guys carry the cup. So I'd watched more than a second.
Buy or sell number 2, KJ Edwards committing to Texas A&M. And you did a very private happy dance.
I mean, I guess
you go full on dancing because everybody here will just get mad at you. Not me.
I mean, I guess it's a buy. I bet it's a little happy dance. Yeah, a little happy dance. I'm interested to see how it finishes. But I just love the notion, Catch, with who I am and what I do for a living. I love the idea that a badass running back from Carthage is trying to pick between the Longhorns and the Aggies. That just does my heart good. And at this point, the fact that he's picked the Aggies, yeah, I was happy about it. We'll see how it finishes.
Buy or sell number 3. You believe in Mike Elko's ability to sign a top 3 recruiting class.
Wow. A top 3 recruiting class. Right now, I'm going to sell until I see the success both out of state and in state. I was going to say it's top 5-ish, but top 3, right now I'll sell.
Buy or sell number 4. Alabama's got one of the top 5 rosters in college football, and they won't make the playoffs this year again.
Ooh. Is Vanderbilt on their? Oh wait, yes, they are on their schedule. They got to play that schedule again. Let's see. No, I'll sell. with the talent there. And I think you and I both agree that we both think DeBoer's a good coach, and I think they'll figure out how to get into the playoff. Yeah, they'll get there.
And finally, buy or sell number 5. If you were a woman, you would rather go on a date with Mick Jagger over Steven Tyler.
If I was say again?
If you were a woman.
Right, if I'm that, okay.
And you were asked on dates by both Steven Tyler and Mick Jagger, buy or sell, in that situation, you would prefer to go on a date with Mick Jagger.
And this is today, correct?
No. Prime on prime.
Oh, a prime on prime.
You can go on a date with him anytime you want to.
Oh, it's a very different discussion. Okay, I thought we were talking about the 75-year-old Steven versus an 82-year-old Mick. Okay, all right.
That's a fair distinction that needed to be outlined.
All right, we're prime on prime. And my prime on prime for these guys is both going to be about as drugged up as I can make them. So I'm going to go full blast. Mick and heroin are having a love affair. And I'm going to go Steven and the cocaine. Like there was a time where Steven wore cocaine on his body. I don't know if you knew that. He had a necklace that he put cocaine inside of. Remember like Sarah Michelle Gellar in Cruel Intentions? Steven actually did that. So if I'm a woman, prime on prime, I'm going, it's a date, correct?
I'm not even saying it's consummate. I'm just saying you're going on a date.
It's a proper date and we have to go out in their oh man. This is
a good question.
It really is. It really is.
I don't know how to answer the question if I'm being completely honest.
I'm going to come up with a word here, Catch, to get myself out of this. And here we go. I'm going to buy and go with Mick.
Okay.
Because I think prime Mick would be slightly more worldly on the date than Steven Tyler would. And that's why you go with Mick by that much. But it would be a drugged out, whacked out good time either way.
What if I told you, okay, the only thing I'm going to tell you about the dates is that while you're on the date with Steven, if you were to choose it, he'll scat at least 10 times.
Well, see, that's where if you say I get to pick as me, I'm going with Steven because I want to hear the scat. Yeah, that would be, you'd have to be a big fan of the scat though. Can you imagine what that was like when Steven on full coke?
Oh, I can.
Just started holding court and scatting for no reason. Oh my God.
So here's my thing about Aerosmith. Okay.
Yeah.
Again, I've seen Aerosmith in concert. Maybe the most of all of like the major acts. Cause I've seen them, I think 4 times.
Okay.
But if I were to do like my top 10 list of songs for Aerosmith, Dream On, Sweet Emotion, 1 and 2. Okay.
Very good songs. Yes.
But then I'm looking at my Aerosmith list right now and it's What It Takes, Walk This Way, Janie's Got a Gun, Living on the Edge, Crying, Angel, Love in an Elevator. Like suddenly,
Walk This Way is old.
Distinct era.
Walk This Way is an old one.
Not the one with Run DMC though.
Oh, you're considering that.
My mark for them is the Run DMC version. That is what catapulted them to their second bout of success.
I see. So you're considering that a new song along with you. I see what you're saying.
It is. The version with Run DMC is a new song. And that is for me the unofficial beginning of Aerosmith's second act. And they're not in their prime anymore because you couldn't argue that the mid to late 80s. Well, I guess you could. It was when they produced the most hits, had the most success. They were kind of they were not one-hit wonders, but because they were a massive band, but their old stuff has not survived the test of time beyond 5 songs.
Wow, that is
I mean, if you go to their greatest hits CDs, it's reflected. I'm not like making this up. I'm not talking out of my ass. If you just click on Aerosmith's greatest hits, not the one that came out in 1980. Not that greatest hits album.
Rex says Jagger takes you to Studio 54. Tyler takes you to a crack house. You might be right.
So here would be my point. Okay. Yeah. So on the 10 songs that are on the 1980 version of Aerosmith's greatest hits, Dream On, Sweet Emotion, Walk This Way, right? No doubt about it.
Yeah.
Last Child,
great song.
Back in the Saddle.
Yeah.
Draw the Line.
Draw the Line, so good.
Remember Walking in the Sand?
That one I'm not that familiar with, no.
These are not
much. These
songs don't all make the current playlist for concerts. Matter of fact, if I did a search on, I haven't been to an Aerosmith concert in a decade. If I were to go to their most recent, I would bet money that only Dream On, Sweet Emotion, and Walk This Way are on any set list they do live in the last 20 years. And I'm Back in the Saddle. They're not doing Back in the Saddle live.
I would disagree with that. But you're talking about last 20 years?
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen Aerosmith in the last 20 years. I heard Back in the Saddle, and I heard Draw the Line, and I heard Mama Kin.
All right, hold on. I'm pulling up their last. Here's what we're gonna do. Okay. I'm gonna name the cities that they last toured in.
Okay.
You're going to tell me you're going to randomly pick the city, and I'm going to look at that set list from 2023.
Okay.
And if I'm wrong, I'll just say it. I'll prove to Hall of Fame that when I'm wrong, I say I'm wrong.
And your assertion is outside of Dream On and Sweet Emotion and Walk This Way, they are not playing any old songs. That's your assertion.
Yes.
Okay. So 2022.
So hold on, I'm going to give you the cities, okay?
What are my cities to pick from?
Elmont, New York, Pittsburgh, Philly, and then there are 3 straight shows in Las Vegas. You can go Las Vegas 1, 2, and 3 if you wanted to. This is the but the 3 shows I picked are from the 2023 tour, and then the Las Vegas shows are all 2022.
Gotcha. Okay. I want to get them as close to home as I can. And I think that's Philly from the ones you named. Philly or New York?
Us than Philly.
It's Philly or New York. So I'll go Philly.
All right. Philly. I'm clicking on it right now.
Give me the Philly set list from 2020.
God damn it. Look.
What do we got, Catch?
I'm going to go backwards, okay?
Backwards from the encore. Okay, go ahead.
They do this. Oh, you fuckers. They encore is Walk This Way and Dream On.
Okay. Good encore.
It's the number 2. I mean, arguably the number 2 songs.
Yeah.
Along with Sweet Emotion. Those are the top 3. And then working our way backwards. I Don't Want to Miss a Thing.
Right.
Rats in the Cellar. I don't know that song.
Oh, it's a great old song. There's one right there. That would disprove your theory right there.
They do Stop Messing Around, so it's a Fleetwood Mac cover.
That's an old song, though.
Well, yeah, because it's a Fleetwood Mac cover.
Right.
It's not one of their songs.
It's not one of theirs. Okay, we won't count that.
They also did Come Together on their greatest hit CD, and it didn't bring that up. It doesn't count.
Yeah, great cover.
Moving Out?
Moving Out's on their first record.
Okay, well, then I was just wrong. The very first song they did was Back in the Saddle.
See? You see?
I'm wrong.
There we are.
My impression of what I've seen at 4 Aerosmith concerts is wrong. But of their 16-song set, Love in an Elevator, Crying, Janie's Got a Gun, Living on an Edge, I Don't Want to Miss a Thing. Like, they go through the thing. They do the songs.
Right. They do a lot. Yeah, because they are, they got a lot they got to cover, man. They've had some.
I'm wrong. I'm just telling you my perception of them.
You see that, kids? Ketch told you that if he's wrong, he'll tell you. He just told you that he was wrong. How about that? About Aerosmith. Real quick, Aerosmith
I didn't
trivia.
like it.
What's Aerosmith's only number 1 song ever, Ketch?
I Don't Want to Miss a Thing.
Very good. It is the Armageddon song. Yes, Mark, we got there. Eventually, the Armageddon song did get mentioned. Yes.
I hate this song.
It did happen. You know who wrote it? Wasn't them.
John Michael Montgomery.
Another good trivia question. Diane Warren wrote that song.
That doesn't shock me.
Right? Diane Warren, who has written more number 1s than just about anybody.
Now that you say it, that sounds like a Dionne Warren joint.
Right. And right. It's got that Diane Warren vibe. When you hear it, you go, oh, yeah. Oh, that is. It's Diane Warren. All right. There we go. How about that? My buy or sell got Ketch into an Aerosmith.
I don't like it. But I'm wrong at least once an hour. There you go.
And here's another song, Ketch, that we haven't even talked about. But Back in the Saddle was my example, and it ended up being right there at the front. Thank you, boys. But also, Same Old Song and Dance is one they do a lot in live through the years. I mean, that's an old tune. So thank you, Aerosmith, for making me right about something. I'm right so little on the show. I'm
not happy right now that I had to take an L at the end of the show.
You just need to go listen to some Aerosmith today. That should be your.
The thing is, what I need to do is not listen to my playlist, because my playlist just has those songs on it. I need to go listen to somebody else's playlist.
You need to go pull up some Rats in the Cellar and Mama Kin and Back in the Saddle. Get it going. All right, let's see. Did I have one thing? Oh,
I'm so disgusted. I don't want to talk.
Seriously. ATX Bates, how was Chad? How was geriatric Metallica? Bates, you're cruel, and it was not that at all for me. I really enjoyed that show.
I enjoyed the hell out of it. Thanks for not asking.
Yeah, it was very, very good. At that age, man, and they're up in their 60s, anybody that can perform either heavy metal or, in their case, kind of thrashy metal at times, or rap in their 60s really impresses me, because that's just hard music to bring to a stage. And Lars Ulrich can still play those drums like that. It's impressive. And those guys are still keeping up. I mean, I did not feel like I was listening to, old men that were too slow and they couldn't play. That's not what it was. I thought it was a really good show. Really good show. I would definitely go check it out again. All right, Catch. Anything else we need to hit today? Maybe the permanent vacation record. You want to go over that track by track? Because that's a great record. Hangman Jury, kids, my favorite song on Permanent Vacation. That
you won't put two and two together. But what did I just do at the end of the show? I went Tom Herman.
You did. Oh no, you went half Tom Herman. Give me two.
I did.
Give me two. There it is. And in the end, Catch goes Tom Herman. That's full circle, baby.
We went full circle.
Thank y'all for liking, subscribing, and getting your notifications. We'll be back tomorrow for, let's see, what if it's a Wednesday? We'll be back for a Thursday show tomorrow at noon. It's House Divided. He's Jeff, and I'm Chad, and Aerosmith rocks. Y'all have a good one.